I'm John Beatty. So Headless UI 2.0 just came out from TailwindLabs. I love Tailwind CSS, and I like using those components when I can. So I thought maybe I could use this switch in one of my to-do apps that I'm working on. I don't use React in this moment, and I don't really want to, but I'm wondering if maybe I can just use Tailwind CSS and StimulusJS to get the same interactivity without having to add React and kind of complicate my front end. So follow along as we see if we can do this. Headless UI is great, brand new version. We're looking at the switch down here, and you can see you just click it, it goes back and forth. It's kind of completely unstyled, but it gives a little bit of CSS that we can use, the class names. So some of these classes here, we see the switch. And when I come to a problem like this, I'm not obviously using JSX. I'm not using this framework here where I have to have a switch component. So I like to go straight to the HTML, and we'll just use our selector, find this. So if you look at it, it's just a button and a span. And if we kind of follow, it's actually real cool. It's using CSS properties where if it's checked, it will change it. And then there's a nice CSS transformation. So pretty, very simple in terms of what this is. So I definitely think we can just have a stimulus controller that toggles some state and gets the component to move back and forth. Again, I've got my to-dos here. We'll get that running. And it's just real simple. It's a name, a checkbox that goes on and off. And what I think I want to do is change this checkbox to a switch. Okay, so we're going to come over here, open the developer console, select this toggle, and just copy the element. We'll come over to our to-do, drop it in there. Let me make this look a little nicer. Bunch of great things in here, especially the class. Some headless state. This little span is the circle that's going to go back and forth. Save that to format. Let me come over here. You can see we got our little toggle right there. Now what I want to do is generate a controller. So we'll go bin rails g stimulus. And we'll just call it switch. Now we got a nice controller here, data controller switch, copy that. Okay, so we're going to put that on the button. We have access to the button because it's the element that the controller is attached to. If we look at what they're doing, they're just actually toggling. It's real simple. They're adding data property, data checked, and that's what's going to toggle this over. So I think we can do that pretty quickly, but we do need an action in order to receive those events. So we'll call this data action switch toggle. Save that. Save that. Come over to the switch controller. Let's rename that to toggle. First, let's see, console.log, this.element, data set, just to see what's there. Console. So DOM string controller switch, headless state UI, the action, great. So we need to put a checked value into there. Toggle. So when they toggle it, what we want to do is check for that data set value. So if this element data set checked, so if there is the checked out value on there, we're going to use the delete this element. Otherwise, we will add that. now you can see that it moves back and forth. So that's pretty sweet. We got that with that little toggle. Let's go ahead and change the background, and we can get rid of a couple things. So we don't need the ID here. It is a switch, button, tab index. Don't need this headless UI state. What we do is make this a nice blue. So now it shows up. It goes away. So let's change this to blue. I want to make it a little darker. Very cool. Okay, so that's the toggle. Now, if we look at this, where am I? I've got obviously my switch right here, but it's not connected to that checkbox. So it'd be really great if there was a way to have the two kind of coordinate. And what I'd like to do is use the outlets method that Stimulus has, where we can actually have one controller talk to another controller. And we'll do a little trick where we actually don't need that second controller, but Stimulus treats it as one. So the first bit, if you look at this, we need a way to contact this. And we can do that with a CSS selector. And so it has an ID of to-do completed. But we've actually got two to-dos, and there's going to be two IDs. Where is that? Form and to-do completed. So we have to change this IDs to get this to work better. And so we can do ID, and just do a string here. And so we'll make DOM ID of the to-do. So that'll give us a nice string right there. And then we'll do completed. See that? Change it. And now if we look at this, its ID is going to be to-do one completed. And if we look at this one, it's going to be to-do two completed. So we get two different IDs that we can talk to. And so the way the outlets work is your one controller is looking for another controller, and it bases it on the controller attribute, data controller, and on ID. So what we can do here is we'll just do controller, we'll name it input. But we don't actually have to create that controller because it's kind of it's just looking for this data attribute on this DOM. Then what we can do here is make an outlet. So data, switch, input, outlet. So that is, and then it's going to be the name. It's going to be an ID, so we'll use the hashtag. We'll do DOM ID of the to-do, and then completed. And so the way the outlets work, the switch is the current controller, and then the input's going to be the name of the other controller we're trying to talk to, and an outlet tells us what's there. We'll come over here, we'll put a input. And what we want to do before we mess with anything is we want to check to see if we have that output. So let's just do quick console.log this dot input. We'll do has, because that's a way to test to see if it's there. So refresh this, come to my console, and we do have that. It's line 12. We do have that output. And so that outlet has an element, and so if you want to see it, we can even log that. So we know we have it, so we can do input output element, input outlet element, and that's that input right there, that to do. So real cool, we can do that defaults, copy that. Okay. Now we've got stimulus, a button, it's a switch here, toggling, that's actually talking to another element right there. Very cool stuff. And let's see, let's make our to-do here. So we can say if to-do not completed. So that, and so now it matches what's on our screen like that. So thank you so much for following along. As you can see, Headless UI is really cool, gives you some great functionality, and we can toggle that button with a little bit of stimulus. And I think the coolest part here is actually using the outlet API that Stimulus provides to talk to other things on the HTML that are not part of that parent structure of the controller. So again, like that checkbox is not a child of our switch controller. It's somewhere else on the page. And so we can use that outlet API to actually talk across the page. And I think that's a really cool feature that I can't wait to add more throughout my apps. Thanks for following along. Make sure you like, comment, or subscribe, or all three. And you can find the tutorial for this whole thing on onrails.blog. Thanks for following along.